In October, by the way, I'm going to my side. In October of 2015, residents of the Porter Ranch area of San Fernando Valley were noticing similar symptoms amongst each other. They were nauseous, they were feeling dizzy, they were having headaches, nosebleeds, they were vomiting.
Sounds like a regular day to me.
Just being this far away from downtown just makes me sick. Residents were also being blasted with the smell of rotten eggs mixed with sulfur.
Yummy.
Yeah.
Is someone making egg salad?
Did they build a new bakery around here? What they were smelling were mercaptans, which are added at low levels to methane gas in the aid of detection of methane gas leaks. And that putrid odor was doing its job, as on October 23rd, 2015, a methane gas leak was detected in the Aliso Canyon storage facility over in Santa Susana Mountains.
Yeah.
In particular, Oat Mountain.
Mere less than a mile from my house.
Up the 118, where the Manson family once called home for a bit.
Yeah, it's further in Chatsworth.
Which Daniel was part of.
I wasn't part of the family.
Just, whenever they fell apart, I was there to help support them. The Aliso Canyon oil fields are owned by the Southern California Gas Company, SoCal Gas, as you might know them, and they are about a mile from the nearest home. But as you know, those hills and the northern ridge of the San Fernando Valley get very windy, and that's where the Santa Ana winds drop into the city. So add a rotten smell to that.
It gets very windy up there.
It does. The Aliso Canyon storage facility is a 3,600 acre lot and one of the 4 natural gas storage fields that SoCal Gas operates in Southern California. The other 3 are the Honor Rancho in Newhall, La Goleta gas field near Goleta, which is closer to Santa Barbara, and the Playa del Rey facility in Playa del Rey, which is near LAX. Of those 4, though, Aliso Canyon is the largest. It's also one of the largest in the country, too.
Oh, no.
Aliso Canyon storage facility is 2 miles long and is the largest gas storage field west of the Mississippi River. So what over here, that's one of the biggest.
I don't know whether to be proud or not.
Listen on. To prepare for winter, each fall, the facility is pumped with as much as 86 billion cubic feet of natural gas, and then that goes on to power plants and then heat homes in Los Angeles. So this is a big, powerful thing that's happening. The leak was coming from a pipe casing below the surface of a well, the well SS-25, that goes 8,500 feet underground.
What?
The methane gas flows into the earth and then seeps through the ground like a zombie. Methane, if you don't know, I'll give you a little lesson on this, is a primary component of natural gas, and it's also a greenhouse gas. Greenhouse gases trap heat in the atmosphere, then make the earth warmer.
So they say. Allegedly. I'm holding a snowball right now, okay? So, sure, it's made by Hostess.
Sure, it's the microphone I'm using right now.
Yeah, I'm talking into a snowball and I'm eating a snowball. I don't believe it.
Al Gore's just a ballyhooey young man.
Outgored by a bull, as they say.
Methane is also a common source for fuel. It's not toxic the way carbon dioxide is, but it is very flammable. Methane is colorless, odorless, and tasteless, which is why they add mercaptans to it, so you can detect it if it's in the air.
So you can taste it.
So you can, what is that?
Add for flavor.
Like I said, it's a greenhouse gas, so one of the biggest issues is that it absorbs the sun heats and warms the atmosphere. Methane gas, which is natural, and although not one of the primary gases in our atmosphere, those being nitrogen, oxygen, and argon, it's probably one of the most plentiful organic compounds on Earth. It is also, next to carbon dioxide, the most prevalent greenhouse gas emitted in the U.S. from human activities.
Great.
Like I said, it's a natural gas, so it's found in all type of habitats. The wetlands was the one I read, so I'm going to go with the wetlands.
Where Aquaman lives?
Nah,
that's where the swamp thing lives.
That is where the swamp thing lives.
He's saltwater, he's freshwater.
Don't mix up your superhero mythos.
Hi.
Oh, boy.
Daniel's laughing.
So methane becomes a problem when, let's say, a large company is responsible for storing it in massive quantities to sell to homes for use to the community, and then there's a leak. Because of its effect on the atmosphere, it is a catalyst for climate change. People have said that this leak at Aliso Canyon set back our climate change endeavors by 10 years.
Great.
And once it's in the atmosphere, it's hard to dissipate. It takes
just when we thought maybe we were reversing global warming.
Just when polar bears are getting fat again. Don't get too comfy, guys. You might be starving. It takes anywhere from 9 to 15 years to break it down with oxygen and water vapor. Yeah.
So start breathing, everyone. Actually, stop breathing. We need the oxygen.
Wait, please slow it down a little bit. It's a little more
talking to you, plants. Start breathing.
It's a little more dangerous underground and deep mines. If you heard anything about miners sending canaries into deep wells, it's to check methane gas levels. It's that's
what the police sang about. Roxanne, the canary in a coal mine.
That's methane gas, if you're curious. Now, samples of the air were collected by the Air District in the residential areas nearby, and they found elevated levels of methane, ethane, and propane, which are all non-toxic gases. In front of one house, the Air District detected methane at 616 parts per million, where the average is 2 parts per million. The leak was emitting methane at a rate of 50,000 kilograms per hour, which accounts for 1/3 of all the methane emissions in our state. So the leak happens in late October, and the company naively told residents in early November that the leak would be taken care of in a couple days.
Yeah, I remember they kept saying like, yeah, we're doing it, we're doing it.
Yeah. No. They began efforts to close the leak, but nothing was really working, which I'll get to. But it has to be.
I didn't understand. Like, come on, just
Close
put a
it up.
Band-Aid on it.
Why is the Band-Aid wet? Why is the Band-Aid falling off? There's the gas.
Oh, I smell it.
I think I'm going to take a nap. In about early November, they kind of were getting the idea like, oh, this might be months before we can like close the leak. Some residents began relocating on their own and applying for reimbursements from the SoCal Gas Company, which they had to like oblige. Other Porter Ranch residents started forming committees to not only discuss legal actions that they could take, but also to speak about with air specialists and SoCal Gas representatives about how the leak can be controlled and what their options were. They also shared experiences and symptoms with each other. Like, oh, you're dizzy, I'm dizzy too. Oh, you got a headache.
Let's get married. It brought people together.
We started new factions of the community. They were just like, oh, you're sick, I'm sick too. That's great. Many residents assembled and sued the SoCal Gas Company with the aid of Whites and Luxembourg, who specialize in consumer protection. The class action lawsuit filed names SoCal Gas Company and its parent organization, Sempra Energy, as the defendants. Their cause was also joined by environmental activist Aaron Brockovich, who you may remember from the movie with Julia Roberts. If you're unfamiliar with Aaron Brockovich, she helped the residents of Hinckley, California to get $333 million settlement from the Pacific Gas and Electric Company over groundwater contaminated by carcinogenic compound. I can't say that word. Can you say it? Carcinogenic,
like your favorite talk show host and part of your favorite racial genetic modifying programs.
Conanogenic.
Eugenic. Conagenocide.
Did I get it? Ellen DeGeneres. Stop it.
Ellen's a genocide. That's it.
So this Porter Ranch SoCal Gas Company lawsuit would seek monetary damages for the families, as well as an order to fix some of the immediate issues residents are experiencing, such as relocation and continuous health monitoring of all the residents of the area. Authorities estimated the residents of Porter Ranch were exposed to the same amount of methane gas in 2 months that is produced by 160,000 cars in the entire year. Smog City, USA. The residents were worried about other chemicals such as benzene having effects on the respiratory system. A specialist said that it shouldn't be a concern. Worry Ward said, I can't hear you, I'm dying. It was believed by residents that they were being exposed to other chemicals. There was a report put out in January, though, showed that there were spikes in benzene and SoCal wasn't reporting it. If you're wondering why that's a big deal, benzene may cause cancer. One of the most damning and frightening images was released in December as part of the residents' case against SoCal Gas. There's an 18-second video shot with an FLIR camera, forward-looking infrared, which is used to detect hydrocarbons. The footage shows methane gas pumping out and hovering over Porter Ranch. It presented to the public how truly massive this leak was. It was just kept flowing. This giant cloud just kept coming at it.
They look like Ghostbusters.
It did look like the scene in the Ghostbusters where their big thing breaks. At that point, or at least around that time, 1,000 or so families were seeking to be relocated at the company's expense. I mean, they thought, like I said initially, that it would be a couple days, but then they started understanding what needed to be done, and that would take probably till February, which is how long it took. On December 18th, the California Oil and Gas Supervisor issued an emergency order to regulate operations, provide data about the leak, and most importantly, close the leak. But that's just them saying like, hey, figure out a really hard solution faster. By finding us, you're not helping. The attempts at sealing the leak were all failing. There was an unsuccessful attempt to stop the flow of gas by pumping fluid into the well. No dice.
It just turned into gassy fluid.
Now I could drink it. Great.
Now our water supply is damaged. As much water as the St. Francis Dam spewing out of it.
And it's all tastes great. In November, they tried to force heavy mud into the well, which resulted in blasting open a small vent in the ground from which gas could escape at a faster rate. Great job. They tried.
How about we try smashing it with a hammer?
Have we tried kicking the gas?
What if we all just like sniff it up? Like the people who work here sniff it.
We keep throwing canaries at it. They just keep, I don't know what's happening. They forget how to fly. They're permanently landing. They tried 3 more times to plug the well, but each time, not only did it fail, made it drastically worse. By late December, 7 attempts had been made to plug the leak, and each time the error became less stable. A pilot taking weekly readings for the Air Resources Board saw a spike in the rate of gas being released in the air during these recovery months. The last of these 7 efforts went and expanded a crater around the wellhead. Like they made the hole bigger. The crater grew 25 feet deep, 80 feet long, and 30 feet wide. I saw a picture of it. I didn't know what it looked like before, but if this was the after, I don't want to, fine. This is scary. The wellhead sits exposed within the cavernous space with no real surface support. It's held in place with cables attached to it around the wellhead, which wobbled during the plugging attempt. So it's just this thing that's hanging over this empty space, and they have cables trying to hold it up. It's kind of hard to explain. Yeah, I'll put the picture up.
We'll go dig it up and take some
You want to go right
pictures.
now? It's like a mile away.
You know who could have stopped this? Probably with his toe?
Aquaman?
Aquaman. Gas man.
The guy from Hellboy 2, that's really a gas. He's a gas.
It's a gas.
So the wellhead is important because if it failed, the leak would go full blast and cause a blowout, which sends methane gas into the atmosphere at a fast rate, which is impossible at that point to stop and basically just destroys the planet. The natural gas also creates the risk of a massive fire if ignited by a spark. Just think about how many fires happen in Southern California in the summer already.
Oh my God. Could you imagine if there was a brush fire, which happens all the time. In that area? Like a brush. Oh my God.
Imagine like the air would be on fire.
What if like that lake that caught on fire?
Like the lake.
I'm trying to breathe. Imagine if like the world just ended because of this gas leak.
It's very possible that like this chunk of Southern California could go up in flames very easily.
The dinosaurs went extinct from a crater hitting the earth, and humans went extinct because the Porter Ranch sprung a gas leak.
This is how sensitive that area is. The fire hazards at the facility are already so high that cell phones and watches are banned from the field.
Watches?
I guess, I don't know.
Maybe like it reflects off the watch. You're trying to burn some ants with your watch?
I burnt my mom's sister with a watch. An ant.
I should have said I'm trying to burn aunts.
The 8th attempt at plugging the leak was successful. They ended up drilling a relief well to intercept the gas and divert it from the exit point. Specialists from the Office of Environmental Health assessed the air quality and were saying that there were no long-term effects, and they were captains that were making people feel nauseous, not so much the methane gas, and any risks of cancer were very small. But that was a risk that nobody wanted to take. A month into it, 259 households had applied and 67 households were temporarily relocated. SoCalGas was reimbursing people's hotel fees for $259 per room per night, plus taxes and fee, as well as their food.
I should have taken advantage of that.
You should have, yeah.
God. I could have lived at a Holiday Inn.
I could have been on the 6th floor of some smelly, roach-infested, semen-covered hotel room.
Which is what Porter Ranch is known for.
They could have sent me from beautiful Porter Ranch, California to beautiful Canoga Park, California.
I could have been living the high life in Pacoima.
In Pacoima, I'm a 9. On December 15th, LA County supervisors declared a state of local emergency, and 2 days later, on December 17th, LAUSD closed 2 Porter Ranch schools, Porter Ranch Community School and Castle Bay Lane Elementary.
That's where my mom used to work.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not at the time.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, she caused the leak.
I told her not to play on them pipes that were underground. They began relocating 1,900 students and staff.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, right?
They moved them kind of far also.
Where did they go? I didn't find that out.
It was
close to the leak.
Yeah, they decided if you can't beat it, join it. So they built a school in the leak hole.
Field trip. The maximum penalty to SoCalGas was not only having to pay to relocate the family, which was going to cripple them, they also had to pay the violation fines, which were $75,000 a day.
They could take that.
Yeah, I know what. Have you seen my bill? Have you seen my gas bill? Yeah, they could handle it. Don't worry. I've paid that much to them.
You subsidized this whole gas leak.
The state prohibited SoCalGas from injecting any more gas into the facility at that point, so they had to shut down operations basically. SoCalGas had proposed a number of measures to reduce emissions and odors, which were making people sick. Construction crews were installing mesh screens to prevent any oily mist at the leaking well from drifting into Porter Ranch, but that really wasn't doing much. By December 22nd, the leak had released the equivalent of 1.6 million metric tons of carbon dioxide, which is more greenhouse gas emissions than 330,000 passenger vehicles produce each year. That's like all the cars I've ever heard of.
It's all the cars I've ever owned.
By early January, state air quality regulators estimated the leak had released the equivalent of 1.9 million metric tons of carbon dioxide in the air. The equivalent, one more time, the equivalent of that. That's the difference in a month, is like hundreds of thousands of metric tons. After these measurements, the SoCal Air Quality Management Board orders an abatement, which called for a serious reduction in the emissions and odors from the SoCalGas pipes. It stated that once the leak is stopped, the order required the faulty leak would be shut down permanently. That one that broke never again would be used. The abatement also required the enhanced air quality monitoring of the Porter Ranch area and the completion of the health study on the potential health effects of the well emission and residents.
Okay. Do they want me to volunteer?
Yeah, could you do that? Can you just like start measuring gas?
If they need me to get naked, I'll do it. Let me just put that out there.
If you need me to like lose a couple clothing items.
If you want to see the gas's effect on my rock hard bod, snap away your pictures.
So in January, with the leak continuing to pump methane into the atmosphere, Governor Jerry Brown, who is not in the dead Kennedys, declared a state of emergency regarding the gas leak.
If you want to hear about dead Kennedys, please listen to our episode about assassinations. Go on.
He ordered a state of emergency regarding the Aliso Canyon gas leak, ordering emergency regulations.
What? Oh, I was going to say, what does that mean to declare a state of emergency?
It means that the government can step in and kind of take over the problem.
Okay.
Which here, all they really did was implement regulations. That means that in most cases, they can take over an organization that is faulted and run it the way they see fit.
So it's like martial law?
It's pretty much like martial law, yeah. But all they really did here is, like I said, implement regulations. So all storage facilities in Southern California had to be almost immediately looked at. People had to go in and assess all of the pipes of every well, all the, everything had to be basically looked at top to bottom, entire organization. Each facility would also have to draft a risk management plan that would look into the deterioration of pipes and other safety threats, which is sort of like being in school and the one kid is being loud and won't shut up and then everyone has to stay after. It's like that.
Well, if Porter Ranch is going to start leaking, you're all going to have to be retrofitted.
But it's Christmas Day! But I put everything in my backpack already. Like I said, they did not suspend any state laws or commit more resources or public funds to address the leak. So some people don't really see that push as being that responsive. Basically,
you mean it took the government of Los Angeles some time to react to a bad situation?
They thought about it and, they did as much yoga as possible and it wasn't really clearing their chakras. So they figured, well, you know what? I'm going to have to get up and put some real pants on and solve this problem. Governor Jerry Brown just said, let's make sure everyone is doing their job like we thought they were already doing. He also pushed for SoCalGas to flip the bill on all related expenses from the leak, which they were kind of already doing, but again, keep doing it. Brown put the California Public Utilities Commission in charge of making sure that the gas company covered all the costs related to the gas leak while protecting ratepayers. So anyone who said that their bills went up around the same time the leak happened and they thought they were helping pay for the leak are mistaken. Your rates are the same or they're your fault. Everybody on my porch was like, we're gonna flip the bill? No, it's because it was a cold winter. All right, guys, we all use the gas. You wanted to wash the dishes in hot water? Well, there it is. In January, another company that operates at Aliso Canyon called Termo Company was found to be illegally and intentionally venting natural climate changing gas from their wells at Aliso Canyon, because it's not just SoCalGas. They rent wells to other companies. One of them was intentionally venting it out. They were fined $75,000. In this case, there was a clear effort to conceal the pipe.
That's like 1 year's worth of electricity.
Like I said, there was a clear effort to conceal the pipe that was venting. Apparently, once regulations started to get stricter because of SoCalGas leak, the people running the pipe dismantled it, but it was already too late. People had noticed it. And because, remember, the state Senate locked down the injecting gas at Aliso, the field shut down all operations. So anybody who didn't, SoCalGas was in trouble, but all these other companies were like, well, how are we going to, that's our money. You're making us lose money. So on February 2nd, two things happened. California Attorney General Kamala Harris sues California Gas for violating state and safety laws by failing to control the leak and to fail to report it to authorities in a timely manner. Apparently, they waited 3 days before they reported it to anybody. The main reason for the lawsuit was that the leak was...
Maybe they won't notice.
God, I hope there's no infrared cameras. I really hope there's no...
You didn't inject those things into the gas to make it smell, did you?
Everyone's feeling sick. Food poisoning.
We fed everyone sushi, but it was really rotten. Everyone go back to school.
Stop eating sushi from the gas station.
We're not the gas station.
The main reason for the lawsuit was that a leak had threatened the state's many efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Remember that Los Angeles smog levels are incredibly high, and we had all these initiatives in place for years to counter this, and this leak hasn't done almost everything. The second thing that happens on February 2nd is that the Los Angeles County District Attorney Jackie Lacey failed misdemeanor charges against SoCalGas for not immediately reporting the leak to state authorities. They were charged with 3 counts for failing to report the release of hazardous materials, which happened between October 23rd to the 26th. By that point, there were dozens of lawsuits against SoCalGas, from the class action lawsuits to civil suits. Earlier in the whole debacle, LA City Attorney Mike Feuer filed a suit claiming that they waited for days before reporting the leak to the proper authorities. If they weren't being sued for ruining the planet, they were being sued for not reporting it on time. They were also being sued for causing families to relocate.
Captain Planet is the one we need in this situation.
You're absolutely right. Where's those 5 kids?
Their school got relocated.
They were also being sued for causing families to relocate in the emotional turmoil, along with the health issues caused by the mercaptan odor. People's lives had been briefly changed because of all of this, and SoCalGas was to blame for all of it. And
lives were lightly affected.
People were slightly inconvenienced. SoCalGas respectfully pleaded not guilty to misdemeanor charges, stating that they had reported the leak on the 23rd, saying,
with all due respect, they're faking it.
And I hope the stenographer gets this. Eat it. Bite me. Shut up.
And I don't know how you may capture this in text, but raspberry noise.
I would like the judge to note that I told everyone to sit on it. SoCalGas said they reported the leak on the 23rd. They made notifications to multiple agencies, but they declined to say when the notifications were made or to what agencies.
You haven't heard of them. They live in Canada.
Yeah, they're like the best agency.
And they got really rockin' bods. Governing bods.
On February 11th, the well was temporarily sealed and permanently sealed on the 18th of February. The relief well implemented in December had worked, however, too slowly for anyone's liking. In the end...
Well, it only took 4 months.
What's the big deal? We told you any day now.
We weren't wrong.
In the end, the leak lasted from the day of discovery to the day of capping, October 23rd to February 11th, lasted 110 days. That was a day of temporarily being capped. It officially stopped on the 18th, so altogether, 117 days of this leak. That means 96,000 metric tons of methane gas was released into the atmosphere. That's the same as 8 million metric tons of carbon dioxide being released. That's the same as 900 million gallons of gasoline burned.
Oh my God.
That's $15 million worth of natural gas wasted. It was declared the largest natural gas leak in U.S. history and now being compared to the BP oil spill in regards to its effect on the planet and its reversing of climate change initiatives. Yeah, baby.
Yeah, but it didn't get a bunch of ducks oily, so just a bunch of canaries
Think
died.
of the birds.
Oh, I am. Alfred Hitchcock scared me. So I always think of the birds.
Think of the editing.
And the lack of musical score. Tippy, Tippy.
So the leak has stopped. Let's all go home. Not so fast.
Oh, but I want my bed back.
I want my race car bed back. Porter Ranch residents started returning to their homes, but even weeks after the gas had stopped pumping and the odor was gone, residents were still experiencing those symptoms. The standard air quality sampling found nothing out of the ordinary, so county health officials commissioned tests of 112 homes in Porter Ranch and the surrounding areas and found metal containments consistent with all those found in the well drilling fluid that was used in attempts to plug the leaking well at the Aliso Canyon. So them trying to plug the leak had almost replicated the same effects. Like they had made it just as bad. And this was like embedded in all the homes that were surrounded. That's
I remember there was like people said that their walls were like sticky.
Yeah, they were like little pieces of everywhere. Yeah.
Right.
Even the containments, which included barium, manganese, vanadium, aluminum, and iron, were found at low levels. They could still be causing short-term problems. For example, barium can cause eye, nose, throat, and skin irritation, which aren't far off from the symptoms that the mercaptans were causing that initially alerted residents to the leak. On March 2nd, a Superior Court judge ordered the gas company to continue paying for the temporary accommodations till March 18th, allowing the time for more air testing, along with a demand that SoCalGas pay to clean the insides of up to 2,500 homes in Porter Ranch. Soon after, the county health department ordered a halt to the cleanup work because the contractors hired to do the job were not following protocols, which included using specialized vacuum cleaners, wet cleaning the walls, and clearing duct work. In total, the company said it paid about $36 million in relocation expenses for about 3,400 homes. Well, I'm glad that's over. April 2016.
I want my race car bed.
Just when you thought it was safe and not dizzy in Porter Ranch, another leak was detected. That sweet smell of rotting egg was in the air, which residents are well familiar with at this point.
Reminds me of October.
Oh, Mercaptans. Well, most people...
Mercaptan, my captain.
Mercaptan, my captain, I want to go home. Well, most people want to point the finger at the severely wounded SoCalGas company. The leak was coming from a well of another company at the Aliso Canyon Field, which, from what I understand, was called Crimson Resource Management, which sounds scary. The leak was not massive. They said simply a turn of a wrench to fix the problem. But it's an odd thing to happen after the state of emergency was implemented and new regulations were put into effect that, like, minor things were still happening, you know? But this was the second of the side leaks, and people were getting pissed. So pissed that residents protested outside the facility, and now they want the Aliso Canyon plant shut down altogether, just shut down. One of the largest west of the Mississippi, and they want to shut down.
We'll get our gas from Saudi Arabia. It's fine.
We're making deals every day. We just have to join, I was going to say ISIS.
Yeah. As long as we cut a sweet deal with ISIS, we're willing to negotiate.
The company and California regulators have stated that shutting down the operations at Aliso Canyon will run the risk of blackouts during the summer months in Southern California when we use a lot of energy to stay cool. Although people are saying the data behind their reports has been criticized by environmental experts. It seems that shutting down those plants, which is, like I said, one of the largest in the area, would drastically change the way we live our lives. Not saying that we couldn't adjust and it wouldn't be worth it, but we should be aware of how our daily life will change if we shut that plant down, which is the lyrics of a Woody Guthrie song. At this point,
you mean Arlo Guthrie.
At this point, May 2016, today, more than 600 plaintiffs are suing SoCalGas company. An odd oddly, something I'm hearing a lot right now is concern over property value. Many residents are angry that the value of their homes has dropped greatly since the leak. The houses in Porter Ranch are very expensive. That's kind of what they're known for. Houses start at about $930,000, and the average income of the residents is about $128,000 annually. This is a wealthy suburb that people want to pay for safe homes, and they can't have that. Then they want to be paid for a wealthy home. Some residents have gone back home hesitantly. Others are moving elsewhere to areas that aren't polluted by big, scary industrial areas. It's just kind of off-putting to me that so far it's been like short-term problems, but people are like, my house now is sick. But
my house can still smell those things.
But I guess that's just me, and I don't own anything, so I should shut up.
Yeah. Was your backpack gonna get sick? Come on, you don't know what it's like to be a
homeowner. My value has gone down. Now I can't resell it.
Which I was going to do because I need the money.
I need to hire a lawyer to sue that damn gas company for whatever happened. Currently, the EPA drafted the first ever national rule to directly limit methane emissions from oil and gas operations, unlocking a new opportunity to reduce climate pollution, which is great. And maybe from this stricter regulation that it's going to be implemented, it might give us a new solution, something we haven't thought of before. But I already thought they were
Band-Aids.
Have we thought about not breathing anymore?
Have we exhausted experimentation in gills?
Have we all tried living at sea? But I already thought that there was strict regulations, so we'll see. As far as long-term health effects, again, we'll see.
Yeah.
It could be 20 or 30 years before we see the full health effects of this. So
hey, just check in with me in 20 or 30 years.
Jesus. So we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
That's what scares me about it is like, because I'm near Porter Ranch, but I was like technically in the blast zone.
Yeah.
But I was still like, everyone was still around. People kept saying like, oh, there's no one there anymore. I was going to the gym like 10 feet away from where the well was, and it's still crazy crowded.
Yeah.
I know that the Porter Ranch Library, I think, got less people coming in. And then our house, they put in...
It's in the middle of the street. Our house.
No.
The family's in the house too.
The family's here in the house. They put in sort of sealants around some of the windows to try to keep the gas out.
Yeah.
But still, like everyone was still there doing their normal stuff, and we were just breathing it in.
Yeah, and I've only talked to a couple of people that were relocated, and it sucks. But like they didn't die.
I'm curious in 20 years to see what happens to me.
People are gonna.
I can feel I'm sterile. I somehow feel like less of a man.
I feel like my children are already angry, and I don't have any.
And that's the problem.
That's the problem.
I've been trying.
We were talking to somebody just last night that was like, we didn't bring it up. They brought it up, but they were saying that a woman with a young child who was pregnant, they SoCal Gas relocated them to like an apartment.
Glendale.
Yeah, to Glendale, to the Americana.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
It's crazy. Like it's crazy pants bananas, like I said. But like I'm just glad that there are no casualties as yet. There are no casualties.
I also never smelled an Alberto, who lives more in Porter Ranch than I do. He said he smelled it several times.
Oh, yeah?
But you know what I say? If you smelt it, you probably dealt it.
And you know what? You're gonna have to pay for that, Alberto. You're gonna have to pay for that.
Like you said, we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see what happens to me, to precious boy Daniel.